When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. Not because I was happy, not because I wanted to go, but because in that moment, smiling was the only way I knew how to hold myself together. The door closed behind me with a sound I still hear in my quiet moments. It wasn't loud. It was soft, final, like the last page of a book you never wanted to finish. I stood on the other side of that door, in a hallway that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else's life, and I thought about how strange it is. How strange that a life built over 50 years can crumble in a single afternoon. I am 73 years old. I have been a wife, a mother, a grandmother. I have been the woman who sets the table for Sunday dinners, who folds the laundry while listening to the radio, who plants roses in the garden and watches them bloom. I have been ordinary, and I thought that ordinariness was my shield. I thought if I was kind enough, loving enough, patient enough, nothing truly terrible could touch me. I was wrong. But this is not a story about being wrong. This is not even a story about the terrible things that happened while I was sleeping, unaware, in the bed I had shared with the man I loved since I was 19 years old. This is a story about waking up, about what it means to look at your life, really look at it, and decide that even broken, you will stand tall. This is a story about shame and why I decided it no longer belongs to me. It begins, as all stories do, in a time before I knew, before the police station, before the photographs, before I learned that my husband of 50 years had been inviting strangers into our home to do unspeakable things to my unconscious body. Before I learned that for an entire decade, while I slept, my life was not my own. It begins in a house we called the House of Happiness. But before we continue, I want to extend a very specially invitation to you: subscribe the channel and leave a like. This helps me see that you support me and enjoy my stories, and comment down below which city you are watching us from right now. Let's continue. I met Dominique in 1971. I was 19 years old, full of life, full of dreams. I had lost my mother when I was just 9, and maybe that loss taught me early that happiness is something you have to reach for, something you have to hold on to with both hands. He was shy. That's what I remember most. A shy boy who blushed easily. When he smiled, it was like watching the sun come out from behind a cloud. He was handsome, athletic, always ready to help anyone who needed him. He made me feel safe. We married in April of 1973. I wore a simple white dress. We didn't have much money, but we had each other. We moved to the suburbs of Paris to a small apartment in Villiers-sur-Marne. It wasn't fancy. The walls were thin and the furniture was secondhand. But I remember thinking, this is it. This is the start. This is where we will build our life. And build it we did. Our son David came first, then our daughter Caroline, and later Florian, 3 beautiful children who filled our home with noise and chaos and love. I worked as a logistics manager. Dominique worked as an electrician, then tried his hand at running businesses. Some worked, some didn't. That's life, isn't it? Ups and downs. We had our struggles, our arguments, our quiet reconciliations. We were normal. Our friends and family adored him. He was the kind of man who would help a neighbor move furniture on a Saturday morning. He was the kind of father who threw ball with the kids in the park. He was kind, caring, present. When I looked at him, I saw my partner. I saw the father of my children. I saw my future. We had a brief separation in the early 2000s. Financial troubles, the stress of life, it happens to many couples. We divorced on paper, but we never really left each other. We still lived together, still raised our children together, still loved each other. And in 2007, we remarried. It felt right. It felt like coming home. All I ever knew with him was kindness. That is the truth. That is the man I loved. And that is what makes the rest of this story so impossible to understand. In 2013, we retired to Mazan. It's a small village in the south of France, surrounded by olive trees and vineyards, bathed in sunlight. We found a lovely house with a garden, a place where we could finally slow down and enjoy each other. The doors were always open to family and friends. The children would come with the grandchildren during the holidays. We would have long lunches outside, the table piled high with food and laughter. We called it the House of Happiness. I really believed it was. The years passed peacefully. I joined a local choir. I loved to sing. It filled my chest with joy. Dominique played tennis, rode his bike, kept himself busy. We were doing what we had worked our whole lives to do. We were resting. We were enjoying. But something strange started happening. I would wake up some mornings feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My mind would be foggy. I would find gaps in my memory, little missing pieces of time. Sometimes I would wake up with aches in my body, pains I couldn't explain. I went to doctors. I had scans. I was tested for Alzheimer's, for brain tumors, for everything they could think of. The doctors told me I was healthy. Maybe it was stress, they said. Maybe it was just age. I remember one morning I woke up and my hair was cut, just a little on one side. I asked Dominique about it. He laughed and said I must have done it myself in my sleep. I accepted that. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. He took care of me. He drove me to all my doctor's appointments. He held my hand when I was scared about the memory loss. He seemed so concerned, so loving. I never once suspected. September 2020. The phone rang. It was the police. They wanted to speak to Dominique about an incident at the supermarket, something about filming up women's skirts. I was shocked, embarrassed. It seemed like a foolish, stupid thing for a man his age to do. But I thought, okay, it's a mistake. He'll explain himself and it will be over. He was questioned and released. They told us to come back in November for more questions. It didn't seem like a big deal, just an embarrassment we would get through together. November 2nd, 2020. I drove us to the police station that day. We had breakfast together that morning, just like always. He was calm. He was normal. He was the man I had known for 50 years. I was questioned separately. I sat across from a police officer. His name was Laurent Parrott. He was kind, but I could see something in his face. A weight, a hesitation. He started asking me about my health, about the memory problems, about the blackouts. I answered him honestly, wondering why it mattered. Then he said something that stopped my heart. He said, "I'm going to show you some photographs. They are not going to be easy to look at." He turned his computer screen toward me. The first photograph showed a woman lying on a bed. She was on her side. She was unconscious. Her face was slack, like a rag doll. There was a man with her, a stranger, doing something unspeakable. I looked at it. I didn't recognize the woman. I told him, "That's not me." He said, "Look again, put on your glasses." I put on my glasses, and I looked at the woman's face. Her cheek was pressed against the pillow, flattened. Her mouth was open, limp. Her eyes were closed. She looked like she was dead. And then I saw the shape of her brow, the way her hair fell, the curve of her shoulder. It was me. My brain stopped working. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just stared at this woman who was me, but who I didn't know, who I had never seen before. The officer showed me more photographs, dozens of them. Me, unconscious, in my own bed, in my own home, while strangers did things to my body that I would never have consented to. He told me they had videos too, hundreds of them, organized in folders on my husband's computer, folders with dates, with names of the men. He told me that for almost 10 years, while I slept beside him, my husband had been drugging me, crushing sleeping pills into my dinner, my drinks, my ice cream, knocking me unconscious so that men he met online could come to our house, to our bedroom, to our bed, and rape me. And he watched. He filmed. He kept a record. 53 men, he told me. At least 53 different men had come to our house, the house of happiness. I don't remember driving home that day. I don't remember the hours that followed. I only remember the feeling of the world collapsing. Everything I believed, everything I loved, every memory I had of the last 10 years, it was all poisoned. Every time I woke up confused, every headache, every moment of forgetfulness, it wasn't illness. It wasn't age. It was him. He had been arrested at the supermarket in September. But between September and November, while he was out on bail, he still brought men to the house. He still drugged me. He still filmed it. He knew the police had his computer. He knew they would find everything, and he kept going. I asked the officer, was I ever conscious? Did I ever participate? He said no, never. I was always completely unconscious. A dead weight, a doll. That was the only mercy, if you can call it that. I have no memory of the rapes. I have no memory of those men. My body remembers nothing. It is my mind that must carry the weight of knowing. The months that followed were a blur of lawyers and investigators and questions I couldn't answer. The investigation revealed the full scale of it. Over 200 rapes, more than 70 men identified from the videos. My husband, the man who blushed easily when he was 19, had become the conductor of an orchestra of abuse. The trial was set for September 2024. In France, victims of sexual violence have the right to anonymity. The trial would normally be closed. My identity would be protected. I could hide. My lawyers explained my options. They told me that if I chose a closed trial, I would never have to face my abusers in public. I would never have to see the photographs or videos shown in open court. I could grieve in private, heal in private, live the rest of my life in private. I thought about my grandchildren. I thought about their friends. I thought about all the women who had ever been silenced, who had ever been told that what happened to them was shameful, who had ever hidden their faces and their names because they were too embarrassed, too scared, too broken to speak. I thought about my daughter, Caroline. The investigation had found photographs of Caroline, pictures of her asleep, taken in our home, wearing underwear that wasn't hers. Dominique had taken them. The police found them on his computer. Caroline looked at those photographs and saw something I couldn't see. She saw a daughter who might also have been drugged, a daughter who might also have been abused. She asked me questions I couldn't answer. She needed me to confirm her fears, to fight for her, to dive into the darkness with her. And I couldn't, I didn't. I was so overwhelmed by my own horror, so drowning in my own pain that I failed to see hers. I told her I didn't know. I told her there was no evidence. I tried to protect her from the uncertainty, from the hell of not knowing. But suffering doesn't bring a family together. It explodes. It blows everything apart. Caroline needed me to be her mother in a way I didn't know how to be. And when I couldn't, she pulled away. The distance between us grew into a chasm. That is one of the deepest pains of all. Not just what was done to me, but what was done to my family. The cracks that formed. The trust that shattered. So when my lawyers explained my options, I made a decision. I told them, the trial will be open. They were surprised. They explained again, once I waive my anonymity, there is no going back. The world will know my face. My name will be in every newspaper. Every detail of my life will be public. I said, I understand. I said, shame must change sides. For too long, the victims carry the shame. We hide. We are silent. We are the ones who feel dirty, broken, ruined. Meanwhile, the abusers, they go on with their lives. They sit in court with their heads down. They make excuses. They say they were just participating, just following, just doing what they were told. No, let them carry the shame. Let them be the ones whose names are printed. Let them be the ones their neighbors recognize. Let them be the ones their children have to explain. I walked into that courtroom on September 2nd, 2024. I was 71 years old. I looked at my ex-husband for the first time since his arrest. I looked at the 50 other men sitting in the dock. Some were young, some were old. Some were firefighters, truck drivers, nurses, journalists, ordinary men, men with families, men who could be anyone's husband, anyone's father, anyone's neighbor. They wouldn't look at me. Most of them kept their eyes down. For 3 months, I sat in that courtroom. I listened to testimony. I heard the excuses. I thought she was pretending. I thought it was a game. I didn't know she was drugged. One man said he was sorry, but only because he got caught. Another said he never would have come if he knew it was rape. I watched the videos. I made myself watch them. Not because I wanted to see what happened. I have no memory of it, and watching was like watching a stranger. But because I knew the defense lawyers would try to use them. They would say, look, she's limp, she's unconscious, she's not moving, she's not a credible witness. And I needed to know what they knew. It was devastating. It was like watching someone come out of surgery. My body was there, but I wasn't. I was gone, anesthetized, a shell. But I did not look away. I did not flinch, not once. The verdict came in December. 51 men were convicted. My ex-husband received the maximum sentence, 20 years. The others received lesser sentences, but they were convicted, all of them. For me, that was justice. Not the length of the sentences, but the fact that they were found guilty. The fact that the world knew. The fact that the truth could not be hidden. But justice doesn't heal everything. It doesn't bring back the years I lost. It doesn't erase the photographs. It doesn't fix the cracks in my family. After the trial, I was alone. Not physically, I had friends, supporters, strangers who wrote me letters. But inside, I was alone with the weight of it all. I moved away from Mazen. I couldn't live in that house anymore. I couldn't sleep in that bed. I moved to a small island, a quiet place where I could breathe. I started to rebuild, slowly, carefully, like tending a garden after a storm. And then something unexpected happened. After my surgery late last year, my phone rang. It was Caroline. We didn't talk about the trial. We didn't talk about the photographs or the distance between us. We just talked, like mother and daughter, tentative, careful, but real. We are beginning to heal. It's slow, it's fragile, but it's real. She calls me now. We share small things, the weather, a book she's reading, a meal I cooked. My son David needs more time. I understand. He didn't choose his father. I chose to live with that man. I loved him. For David, the betrayal is different. It's deeper in some ways. I give him space. I wait, I hope. I also found something I never expected to find again. Love. His name is Jean Loop. We met in 2023. He has also been through difficult times. We understand each other in a way that people who haven't suffered cannot understand. We don't need to explain ourselves. We just are. He is kind. He is gentle. He makes me laugh. And when I am with him, I remember that I am still a woman. Not just a victim, not just a survivor. A woman who can love and be loved. I never imagined I would feel this again. I never thought I would want to. But life surprises you. Even after everything, life finds a way. I wrote a book, a hymn to life. It was my way of looking inward, of taking stock, of trying to rebuild from the ruins. People ask me how I am still standing. They look at me and they see strength. They see courage. But I am not special. I am not a hero. I am just a woman who decided that the only way forward was to stand tall. I still have days when the weight of it all is too much. Days when I wake up and for one brief moment I forget. And then I remember, and it hits me all over again. But I also have days when I sing, when I laugh, when I walk by the sea and feel the wind on my face and think, I am alive, I am here, I am free. So here I am, 73 years old, a grandmother, a survivor, a woman who learned that the people we love most can sometimes be the people we know least. I think about the house of happiness sometimes. I think about the olive trees and the sunlight and the long Sunday dinners. I think about the man I married, the shy boy who blushed. I still don't understand how he became what he became. I may never understand. I hope that one day, when I am ready, I will visit him in prison. I will look him in the eye and ask him why. I don't expect an answer that will satisfy me, but I want him to see that I am not broken, to see that I am still here. To anyone listening who has suffered, who has been hurt, who has been told that what happened to them is their shame to carry, I want to say this. The shame is not yours. It never was. It belongs to the ones who hurt you. Let them carry it, put it down, walk away. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still capable of joy, of love, of laughter. It may take time. It may take years, but it is possible. I am proof of that. My name is Jaisal Pelicott. I am a woman who stands tall, and this is my story.